everyone, and welcome back for another one of our interviews for QA Atlanta. I have the honor and privilege to be here with Leslie. Leslie, thanks for joining me today.
Certainly.
And Leslie, so for those of you that don't know, he is a board member of QA, which is the host organization putting on QA Atlanta. And they've built an amazing program, but he also is a renowned speaker and will be giving a talk at the QA Atlanta conference coming up the end of this month here in September now. Leslie, could you maybe tell us a little bit about what inspired the talk that you'll be giving here and how you came up with that topic and a little preview for the folks of what it's going to be about?
Sure. I have more than 20 years of test automation experience. I've automated testing in more languages and tools than I can even remember. And I'm always looking for better ways to do testing. So about 5 years ago, that desire to find a better way to do everything we do led me to specification by example, or BDD. And I saw it as, yes, it's a QA methodology, but it's actually way more than that. It's a software development, requirements development, and QA methodology, and can deliver enormous value for the organization. There are companies like Vanguard Financial or BNP Paribas who have reduced the amount of time their developers spend fixing bugs from 40% to essentially no percent. And that's a huge change. That's way more than just QA. So that to me is a tremendous better tomorrow than yesterday. And I want to share that with people. I introduced that methodology at General Motors and led the first QA team in GMIT that delivered automated tests to the developers while they were still writing the code. And our QA team was, half of them were fresh out of college and excited and eager, but no experience. So when they accomplished this, and we told them what a huge big deal this was, you're part of a 10,000 person IT organization, and you just beat every other QA team in the entire company in this accomplishment. They were so proud of themselves. It's just, I still smile. I'm so proud of those folks. They did an outstanding job. And I want to share those things.
Well, that's amazing. Like, who wouldn't want to be a part of this session with all that, that's amazing. And congratulations to you and that team. And, this is awesome knowledge to impart to others that haven't maybe been enlightened by specification, by example, or some of the BDD strategies, right?
Yep. So today I am working in a data science group, and I am filling both the business analyst and the QA lead roles. So I'm writing requirements with the data scientists and the developers, and then I'm automating the testing of those requirements using Behave and Python. And it's fun. It's very challenging. I have to learn something new every single day, and I like that. It's there are times when I go, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this, and but we get through it, and I go, okay, now I know. I want to share that too.
That's amazing. And speaking of that, right, like new things you're learning every day. Obviously, the world's experiencing an immense amount of change. Companies are being asked to change at a dramatic pace. Strategies like you just mentioned with specification by example and BDD, important in finding any way you can optimize and help your company succeed during this time. What would you say with your advice, experience, the things you know, what are some important skills for quality professionals right now if you were to give advice about, where to skill up or where to enhance your knowledge and learnings today based on what you're seeing in the companies you're working with?
Well, automation is almost assumed today. There are very few manual QA jobs. And so if you do not have automation skills, well, I would strongly encourage that you learn a programming language, probably one of the big three. JavaScript, if you are focused on user interfaces, there are a lot of test tools for user interfaces that are based on JavaScript. Python, if you're going into data science or a lot of other areas, but data science is almost all, and machine learning and AI is almost all Python. And Python and JavaScript are both relatively easy languages to learn. Java is a harder language. It's very, very widely used. So that's a good skill to have, but I wouldn't tackle it first if you don't have any programming experience. And then BDD, specification by example. I think it is where Agile was about 10 years ago. 10 years ago, lots of companies were talking about Agile and saying, oh, we're Agile. They were experimenting with Agile. Some of those companies were reporting really impressive performance improvements. And the companies that had not yet experimented with it were looking at those leaders and going, wow, if they can get that much of a productivity boost, we need to look into this. But a lot of the companies that were experimenting with Agile 10 years ago were doing it very badly. And BDD, specification by example, are very much in the same place where some companies are reporting really impressive improvements, and a lot of companies are using BDD and doing it very badly. So I think it's a great skill to add, but you need to learn it well. You don't Google BDD tutorial, because most of what you'll find is not good.
Speaking of that, then, that kind of leads me into my next question, because you're absolutely right. With any skill or technique or strategy, there are some good references and resources to help us learn that. And then there are some things that may not be helpful or lead us down a path that isn't as helpful. So what would be, to that point, some resources you would recommend to folks listening to this interview, and say these are good resources for some of the skills you just mentioned, to get more information or get more knowledge in those areas?
Well, if you're learning Python, realpython.com is a great tool. If you're interested in learning how to do BDD or specification by example really well, the cucumber.io website, the website of Cucumber Limited, the company that created the Cucumber tool, that is an awesome website. Their blog posts are very, very useful. They've got tons of useful stuff to read there. The book, Behavior-Driven Development with Cucumber, by Paul Rayner and Richard Lawrence, is an outstanding book. It's small, it's easy to read, it has a little bit of programming in it, but it would be a great resource whether you are a business analyst, a QA with no programming experience even, or a developer. It's a good resource. Specification by example, the book, if you don't have any programming experience at all and you do not want to see even one line of program, Specification by Example by Gojko Adzik is an excellent book. I wore out my first copy. I read it so many times. Other books, the Cucumber book, if you like Ruby and you're a programmer and you want to see how you really do the automation, or the Cucumber for Java book, if you are from the Java persuasion. If you have a strong math background, there's machine learning and artificial intelligence are becoming so hugely important. So if you have the math background, what artificial intelligence, a modern approach, and you can get the third edition. I don't think that you must have the fourth edition, which is way more expensive for just learning about the field. It's a great overview of lots of different types, different niches within machine learning and AI. And then, of course, if you really want to stretch yourself, the book Deep Learning is a great book on neural networks and deep learning, and the math is pretty impressive.
So don't take on that last one unless you're really ready for a little bit of a challenge, but
Yes.
start maybe with some of the others. Now, this has been great, Leslie. It leads me to our last question for our interview, which is around, we talked about in the beginning, you're a board member of AQAA. Can you talk a little bit for folks that aren't familiar with AQAA, which is, again, the host organization putting on this QA Atlanta conference this year, the end of this month? What are some of the things you get as a part of being a member? Because I know you actually, besides being a board member, you also have some other functions inside the organization where you assist and help members. So maybe talk a little bit about that for us.
Well, the Atlanta Quality Assurance Association, AQAA, does a lot of training. So we have had Java classes, we have had Selenium classes, we have had all manner of classes to help people upgrade their skills. We have had some really outstanding speakers and continue to have outstanding speakers where people who are still learning the field can learn a great deal by attending one of the monthly meetings. And personally, I am the job search concierge. And so I help people by reviewing resumes, by explaining to them, by looking at their resume and saying, okay, you've got really good skills here. I would strengthen these other skills. Here's what I would study, by making introductions to recruiters, all of those sorts of things. And I very much enjoy doing that. I like being helpful to those people.
Such an amazing thing, and such a great resource for folks. Now, we've talked about this before, but what's kind of, a upside to the current situation in the world is if I want to become a member of AQAA, I don't have to live in Atlanta or even Georgia, right? So you can become a member. I've heard and seen you guys actually broadcast those sessions, those trainings you're speaking of, to folks anywhere in the world, really.
We certainly do and can now, yes.
That's amazing. Well, Leslie, thank you for being here with us. I appreciate it. For folks that haven't signed up, if you heard some of the amazing results, if you do specification by example and BDD correctly, please join us at QA Atlanta's upcoming conference. Please join in and tune into Leslie's session. I think we all have a lot to learn and can take a lot from that session. So thanks, Leslie, for taking the time to do this. And we hope to see you all at QA Atlanta later this month.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.